webinar and following the webinar about this component of the work. If we go on to the next slide, as you are all very aware, the WFSNCC initiative strategy involves the strategic integration of three, I guess, pillars, services that fall underneath these three pillars that include education and employment, income and work supports, and then more specifically what we're going to be talking about today is the financial services and asset building pillar. We'll go to the next slide. Improving financial behaviors in WFSN, just briefly, it can help, these services can help build assets for low-income students as part of the third pillar. It can address some of the financial challenges students face while also preparing students for financial stability. It combines low and high touch strategies that can be scaled, particularly when paired with financial literacy, products and services, and coaching, as well as in WFSN community settings, participants have built and repaired credit, established savings, and been able to maintain employment using similar products and services. So that's just a few elements of the work that and how it kind of contributes directly to student success in a variety of different ways. Achieving the Dream has a number of funding partners to support WFSNCC. Scaling expansion initiatives. Specifically for this work, we have support from MetLife Foundation that has generously given us money to embark on doing a deeper dive in this work, specifically with six existing WFSNCC colleges in 3 states. And later in this webinar, you'll hear from some of the technical assistance providers that who are working directly with these institutions to support the implementation and kind of prototyping of these variety of financial products and services on their campuses. The existing group of colleges that are receiving some additional grant funding to do this work and direct complement to their existing WFSNCC, their other WFSNCC implementation strategy include Kenyatta College and Skyline College in California, East Arkansas College and North Arkansas College in Arkansas, as well as College of the Washitas and Walla Walla in Washington State. So these are 6 institutions that we identified, actually kind of identified themselves last year as being interested in receiving some additional funding and technical assistance to do a bit of a deeper dive in this third pillar, the financial asset development piece. And so we very much look forward to hearing more from the individuals and organizations that we are working with to provide direct technical assistance to these colleges as they implement and hopefully work towards scaling a variety of different financial prototypes at their institutions. Joining me today on the call, who will be discussing a bit more about the work that they do with the colleges, is we have Ashvin Pratish from Center for Financial Services Innovation. We have Lauren Leinbach from Community Financial Resources. And we have Wendy De La Rosa from Irrational Labs. All three of these individuals and their respective organizations have played a significant role in helping ATD and the colleges advance a lot of this work. We are very interested to be engaging the new WFSNCC LA colleges in this work to kind of pique their interest about the possibilities if, should you all be interested in doing similar work moving ahead in this kind of doing a deeper dive into the third pillar of WFSNCC and what that may look like at your institution. So with that brief introduction, and I'll close with some next steps toward the end, but I'll pass it off now to Ashvin from Center for Financial Services Innovation to talk a little bit about his work and his role in engaging with the colleges under his purview. So Ashvin?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Julian. And hello, everyone. My name is Ashvin Prakash, manager with the Center for Financial Services Innovation. We're a nonprofit. We're based out of Chicago, and our real focus is on improving the financial health of consumers by giving them more access to higher quality products and services. I'm really privileged to be on the phone and speaking with you all today and working with Achieving the Dream to help support this strategy and look for new opportunities to improve the financial behavior of students and ultimately help drive higher completion rates at colleges. So we're going to begin with just a brief kind of overview on some of the financial challenges we've identified with students, and Wendy will also be talking through some of the behavioral challenges that we see. But we're hoping to spend the bulk of the time around the prototypes that we've developed and going through the colleges that are implementing those in our learnings to date. But at a high level, when we think about the challenges for community colleges, we recognize that many of you are working with students who are generally lower income as compared to public or private four-year colleges. Community colleges work with students who are low to moderate income and more likely to have no resources to pay for community college or have a documented need for financial aid. So overall, what we see is a more financially vulnerable population, and we can see the impacts that this has on their ability to complete courses and achieve success. On the next slide, we see that one of the biggest challenges for students today in terms of staying in school is through financial challenges. It appears to be the leading cause of dropout at many community colleges. Reasons such as needing to make money and inability to afford tuition and fees are some of the leading drivers of dropouts, as well as not having someone that they could turn to financial support. So our hypothesis is that by helping students better manage their money, there's really an additional opportunity to improve their financial health and reduce their likelihood of dropping out for financial reasons. On the next slide, at CFSI, we're really focused here on this idea of financial health, and that's really when a person's day-to-day system, the way they manage their money in a day-to-day system, improves their ability to be resilient to long-term financial health so that they can weather financial shocks and build longer-term opportunities for themselves. For students, since particularly what we're hoping to do is help them, one, be able to, on the day-to-day level, manage their money more effectively, be able to pay their bills on time and conduct transactions and live within, and create budgets so that they can live within their means. Help them build a resilience over time so that they have an appropriate savings cushion or access to credit when they have an unexpected shock so that they don't have to drop out or drop out of courses to cover an emergency. And in the long term, help them build their credit and provide a pathway so that they can be more financially stable in the future. And what we're trying to test here is that by helping students achieve financial health, they'll be more financially capable and have better behaviors that would allow them to progress through their classwork and not have to drop out and improve the completion rates. So I'll just spend a quick second. The key barriers that we're trying to address here, that's also mentioned on the last slide. In the day-to-day management, we're trying to help students be able to be better able to manage their day-to-day cash flow. We're trying to help them build a financial cushion so that one emergency that they experience isn't going to result in them having to drop out classes or take out an expensive form of credit. And lastly, we want to help them build credit over the long term so that they have access to affordable credit options and are able to plan ahead for the future. So those are the three core financial challenges that we sought out to address in terms of improving students' overall financial health. So just briefly talking about these issues, inability to manage cash flow is a big challenge that we see amongst students. Many of them are working part-time jobs, have very variable and volatile income streams and expenses, and are unable to budget because of the unpredictability of their cash flow. A lot of them are getting a huge cash infusion at the beginning of every semester, and it can be tough to make sure that that money is going to last them throughout the course of the semester and that they spend it and budget it appropriately. So one of the challenges we want to solve for is how to help students better manage that cash flow so that it's a little more consistent and they're able to budget accordingly. Another challenge is, as we talked about, the lack of a financial cushion. So we know many Americans today struggle with setting aside a financial cushion that they can rely on in times of emergency. One of the things that we heard about is from many of the community colleges is that students are oftentimes one flat tire away from dropping out. So making sure they have a cushion that they can turn to in times of emergencies can help them be resilient in that emergency and also maintain their day-to-day commitment to the community college. One example that we saw in a project that we did where we tracked low-income customers across the U.S., one consumer that we found, Carla, was actually a community college student relying on wages from her part-time job as a waitress, but also at times having to drop out if there was some kind of financial emergency and she needed to pick up more hours. So we know this is a key challenge facing many community college students today. And lastly, this issue around the ability to build credit. This is a big challenge that many Americans are faced with today. About 34% of consumers today are subprime or have subprime credit scores or don't have a credit score. And not having access to credit can be pretty costly in terms of being forced to rely on higher quality or higher cost credit products, not having access to jobs, having difficulty securing rent or an apartment. So there are definitely a lot of long-term benefits with the ability to build credit, and that's one of the challenges we also are trying to address with our work here. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Wendy to talk through some of the behavioral learnings and the implications there.
Great, thanks, Ashwin. So just as a quick background, Irrational Labs is focused on trying to understand how and why people make decisions. And so we sit at the sort of intersection between academic research and practical implementation, whether it be at nonprofits, organizations, etc. And, you know, whenever we've dug into the area of financial decision making, specifically around community college students, what we found, as Ashwin mentioned, is that there are two key reasons, self-reported reasons, why students are dropping out. Right? The first one being I need to go to work and make money, and the second one being I just couldn't afford going to school. And all of these, and these two top reasons are sort of central in financial decision making, right? It's not because they found community college to be extremely difficult for them. It's not because for their career prospect they didn't think it was the best thing for them. It was literally all around their ability to make good and bad decisions within their financial capabilities. Now, the common approach to solving these problems is to educate students on how to save money. You know, creating financial education programs, sort of reiterating over and over again the importance of saving, the importance of balancing your checkbook, etc. Unfortunately, what we find in research is that financial literacy programs alone, without any behavioral interventions, are not working. So Daniel Fernandez and John Lynch did a meta-study analyzing over 200 experiments that have tried to change financial behavior using financial literacy programs, and they found that the effect of financial literacy programs on actual financial behaviors is 0.1%. Right? And so this tells us that just telling people what they should do is not working. We need to be able to pair it with behavior-based interventions. And what do I mean by behavior-based interventions? Well, there are a couple of ideas to keep in mind when you're designing an intervention. And what we know from research is that everyone knows they have to save. Everyone knows that they should budget appropriately. Everyone knows that they shouldn't overspend. But we do have irrational tendencies, and many of those tendencies are predictable. People are more likely to do what they think is socially acceptable. People are more likely to focus on potential losses rather than gains. We know that our intuitions are often wrong, so we think that if I just change the name of this form, or if I change the box in this form, you know, my answers are not going to matter. And what we find from research is that the environment matters much more than we think across many different realms, not just in financial decision making. And that's why the details matter. So as you guys are thinking about launching new products or launching new interventions, getting down to the nitty-gritty, you know, revising what emails you're sending, what's your marketing plan, who are you targeting, all of these details matter when you're trying to impact behavior. So there are a lot of benefits of obsessively figuring out what are the barriers stopping our students from achieving, you know, positive financial behavior. One barrier could be, even if I want my students to open up a savings account, how many steps do they have to take in order to get to the bank account? You know, one financial behavior intervention that's behavior-based that we found is that the closer a financial rep is at the point of financial literacy delivery, the more likely someone is to open up a savings account, maintain a savings balance, and also increase their savings contribution over time, right? And that's a very big barrier that we're reducing in that example. And it's just reducing the number of steps someone needs to take to go and visit a bank representative. Now, we can go through each of the different psychological principles that are at play when we think about money and when we think about choice. But I'll just sort of quickly dive into two. The first one being this concept of mental accounting. And so this principle of mental accounting is this theory that we categorize and treat money very differently depending on where it's going and where it's coming from. So for example, researchers at Harvard did a very interesting study where at the time that low-income communities received their tax distributions, for one population, they named it withheld income, and in another population, it was your tax refund. Exact same money being delivered to both populations based on their income tax. The only difference was how they named that refund, whether it was a refund or if it was, withheld income. And what they found is that for the group where it was named withheld income, that population was more likely to save more of their income, make less leisure purchases, and treat it, and if they were more likely to spend it, they were more likely to spend it on basic necessities rather than leisure spending, right? And this is sort of this, again, going back to this principle where we treat and categorize money very differently if we think it's a bonus, if we think it's part of our regular income, if we think that, we are automatically going to allocate it towards our rent versus our tuition. And this is an irrational way of thinking, right? $1 coming from my mother should be exactly the same as $1 coming from a friend, but we don't treat it in that way. The second principle I just want to sort of very quickly highlight is this principle of defaults. So if you see on the chart below, which may be hard to read for some of you, shows a percentage of organ donation rates by country. And it's not necessarily how many people are actually donating their organs, it's how many people said that they would be an organ donor. And so we have sort of 4% in Denmark and almost 100% in Austria. And many people, when they look at this chart, they think, oh, well, there must be cultural differences between the countries with low organ donation rates and the countries with high organ donation rates. Or there must be an incentive program going on. Or there has to be something going on that sort of explains the large differences between the two. And what we find is that what accounts for the vast difference between organ donation rates across these different countries is how the form was laid out at the DMV. So for those countries where organ donations is high, someone actually has to check a box to opt out of being an organ donor. In those countries where organ donation is low, someone actually has to check a box in order to say, yes, I do want to be an organ donor. Now this is a very, very small barrier, right? Someone just needs to check a box on a form. But what happens is with complex decisions, with hard decisions, right? How do I know if it's a good decision for me to be an organ donor or not? We often tend to do nothing and let the form or whatever the default is decide for us. So as you guys are thinking about creating or emulating some of these interventions that we're going to be highlighting, I urge you to think about what is the default and how can you make it as easy as possible for your students to go and go through and make your recommended option. Right? Do you want them to fill a form to opt in or to opt out? Right? How easy is it for them to actually go through your designated path? The more barriers that you include, the harder it's going to be. And a barrier can be something as simple as checking a box, as we see in this default example. Now with that, I'm going to turn it back to Ashwin so he can talk through the prototypes that we're actually running with our partner schools.
Thanks a lot, Wendy. You've had a chance now to hear about the different core financial challenges that we presented earlier, as well as the behavioral learnings that Wendy just talked about. What you'll see in these prototypes that we're going to present in the next few slides is that they try to combine addressing those core financial challenges, leveraging some of these behavioral economic learnings to design products that students would kind of adopt and help build that better behavior over time. So to begin here, just to quickly talk about the process for how we identify the 6 prototypes that we'll be talking through. We had a series that involved some internal brainstorming, as well as bringing in the community colleges and understanding the landscape better. So we did a similar webinar back in early fall last year with a handful of community colleges, laying out the challenges, talking about the behavioral economics implications with a handful of community colleges. We then had the colleges do we conducted a survey amongst the colleges to better understand what their student population looked like, what some of the demographics were, and types of products and behaviors that they were seeing amongst their existing students. We then did a few interviews with community colleges that had piloted certain interventions to better understand how those were working or not working. And then ultimately, we led a half-day working session with a group of 7 community colleges, brainstorming different types of interventions that could combine both the behavioral learnings and the financial challenges to identify solutions for this group. So based on all that work, we've identified 6 prototypes that we're hoping will address the financial challenges that community colleges face and help them overcome the barriers to completing their coursework. So the 6 prototypes at a high level, I'll talk through here. The 6 prototypes at a high level are going to be, the first few are identified at addressing the challenge around students' inability to manage their cash flow. So the first idea is around modifying the distribution of financial aid, moving from a one-time distribution to multiple distributions over the course of the semester. The second is renaming the financial aid refund, so similar to the idea Wendy talked about around mental accounting, changing the way people think about the refund so that they spend it in a more budgeted type of way. Then the next 2 are around helping improve a financial cushion. So the third idea is around providing some kind of emergency grant or cushion that students could rely on in any type of financial emergency. And then an automatic allocation to savings, where automatically a portion of their savings can be driven into a savings account. And then number 5 is a credit building tool, so helping students have that access to improving their credit score and building credit for longer term opportunities. And lastly, just revamping the way people think about financial literacy by developing an improved kind of financial action plan that students, that colleges can put into place that would target specific outcomes that we'd want to see students demonstrate. So those are the 6 prototypes at a high level, and I'll go through each of the prototypes, and we can talk about a college that has adopted one of these prototypes and any of the learnings to date. So for the first prototype, the modifying of the distribution of financial aid, so we know that many colleges today are paying their financial aid out at the beginning of the semester, which can be a big lump sum at the onset of the semester. And what we find is that many students end up spending that money before they get to the end of the semester. So we see, as you come up on the end, many students dropping out because they don't have enough money to keep going, or they're really running dry on funds and they're having to turn to expensive credit products. So our solution here is that by splitting up this payment and making it a more even distribution over the course of the semester, students are better able to manage the inflow of cash that they get over time, and can help improve their financial behavior and health by just having a more kind of consistent cash flow rather than a one lump sum strategy. So one college that we know that we're working with that has implemented this is East Arkansas Community College. Last fall, they moved from 1 distribution to 2 distributions, and so far the feedback has been pretty positive. They'll be sharing more of those learnings in our in-person working session next month. The second prototype that we came up with was the renaming of financial aid refunds. So this is around rebranding the term refund to something that sounds more income or stipend related, so that it's not considered a gift at the beginning of the semester. Our hypothesis here is that many students view the refund as one-time payment that they can spend on things, luxurious items that they might not have needed otherwise. But by shifting the way they think about this refund, we can get them to make better financial decisions with relatively little effort here. So again, East Arkansas Community College did a survey this semester to see how students would react to different types of language if the refund was framed in a different way. I believe we tested out words like allocation or stipend or income, and tested how students would react in terms of how they would spend it over the course of the semester. And we saw some differences. However, the scale was pretty small, and we hope to make this a more broader-based survey going forward to enhance our learnings there. The third prototype that we launched is around providing some kind of emergency loan to students who are facing some financial difficulty, anywhere up to $500, to replace a flat tire or cover grocery expenses due to some kind of unexpected event, which in the past has been a big driver of students dropping out. So one school has moved forward on this, College of the Wichitas. These guys just launched a small dollar credit loan product to their students a few weeks ago. Have had a few students come through and already take advantage of it. So we're hoping to hear some more from them in terms of what this has looked like and what the student experience has been and what repayment looks like. But we're pretty excited to see more and more schools getting into this space. The fourth prototype is around, I think, what Wendy talked about as the default bias, getting more and more students to save. So we know many students today aren't saving, and because they're not doing this, they become financially vulnerable. If there's some way to help them save, we think it can improve their access to financial cushion in case they have any type of emergency. So our solution here was some kind of automatic deposit of 10% of a student's refund into savings, where students would automatically be placed into that, and a portion of their refund would automatically be placed into a savings bucket for them. We haven't had a school try this out yet, and we're still hoping that down the road maybe some version of this can take place. I think there are some regulatory considerations given financial aid and what you can do with it, but we see that this could have a pretty big impact if students are automatically saving versus being forced to take on the activity on their own. Sorry. The fifth prototype is around offering credit building tools. So we know many students today do have damaged credit profiles or no credit profile, and because of that, they have to rely on products like payday loans, auto title loans, and those can be offered at kind of a higher cost than traditional credit cards or more mainstream credit options. So our solution here is to provide some kind of credit building tool that students can leverage that can help them build credit and improve their ability to access more mainstream products in the long term. Students would have a pathway by using this and over time build their credit profile. And we're looking at products here like secured cards and credit builder loans. So one community college has piloted this. Lauren, do you want to talk about the work Skyline Community College is doing?
Sure. Hi, I'm Lauren Leinbach. I'm from Community Financial Resources, which is a nonprofit organization that happens to be made up of ex-bankers, or as we like to say, reformed bankers. And one of the things that we do is source or develop financial products that work better for low to moderate income households. And one of the things that we have done with Skyline Community College is work with a local credit union that had a secured credit card product. We altered the product to make it more accessible to students by lowering the initial amount of money that needed to be put into the savings account to collateralize a credit line on the card. And what Skyline College did was create a program where students would be offered a savings match to help develop the initial amount of money needed for the credit line, and then have an agreement with the students that they would go through credit workshop and credit coaching to efficiently and effectively use this card. An interesting thing we found is that many students thought that credit was something that they didn't need, that they weren't borrowing yet and they weren't interested in borrowing. and they did not realize that without a credit history that it could inhibit their ability to rent an apartment, or they would end up paying more for insurance, they would end up paying more for utilities. In fact, research shows that without a good credit history, you end up paying almost $250,000 more in excess fees over your life. So just starting with the education about credit as an asset was a key to this prototype, and we're now in the process of signing students up for secured credit card, and then we'll be giving them training and then also monitoring card usage and watch what happens to their credit scores.
Great, thanks, Lauren. And the final prototype that we came up with, this is built on the idea that many community colleges today are already offering some kind of financial literacy curriculums to their students. But I think, you know, when our teams thought about it, a lot of these curriculums aren't very action-oriented, and a lot of what you learn in the classroom doesn't get actually implemented in real life. So what we proposed here is a more behavior-based action plan that colleges could add on to their current financial literacy efforts that can help drive specific outcomes and behaviors that we're looking for within students. And so the 3 colleges within our prototype group that have piloted some kind of improved financial literacy effort, I can speak briefly to North Arkansas. Their community college that are just launching a financial literacy class. They've figured out which curriculum they're going to use, and now on that curriculum, we're working with them to identify specific exercises that they can have their students do between classes that would result in the outcomes that we would like to see. So whether it's setting a savings goal and actually making progress towards that goal, or working within a class to identify a rule of thumb that they would then stick to and track over the course of the semester. So almost adding a gamification component to how they how you pitch financial literacy and how you get students to commit to it. Lauren, do you want to talk about any of the other 2 schools?
Sure. Walla Walla Community College is tying financial education as a new intervention as part of their emergency grant program. So Walla Walla had been doing emergency grants for students that run into a financial crisis, and they found that most grants were between $300 and $500, so it wasn't a huge amount of money. And as part of that grant process, what they decided to add as an intervention was to have the students create a budget as to how they were going to get through the semester, and then have them return in 45 to 60 days to review with the financial aid advisor how they did with that budget. And they added another requirement in, well, not a requirement, they added in a suggestion that the students also attend a financial education workshop that was being offered as part of the core curriculum at the community college. So the process was put in place this semester. They made about 80 emergency grants this semester, and we're just starting to look at what happened with the students' budgets. So that was Walla Walla. Kenyatta College is a little bit different. This financial education program that they're looking at, we call it behavior-based financial education, and it's all around educating students about tools that they can use to manage their money and then incenting them to try out the tools. And we're particularly interested, Wendy mentioned, for example, trying to connect students immediately with tools instead of having to have them go 5 blocks away and go to a bank branch to sign up for a product. At Kenyatta College, we've made a couple of products available to them so that they could sign up right then and there at the class, a prepaid debit card that they can sign up for remotely, and also it looks like they're also interested in using the secured credit card that we're using at Skyline College. But in this financial education program, there's a workshop on a particular topic, and then based on that workshop, behaviors are identified that the students are encouraged to try out, And then as the students try out those behaviors and come back to a financial coach, they're given incentive awards for doing that. So again, we've started this semester, we're starting to collect that information, and we're very interested to see what behavior changes result.
Great, thanks, Lauren. So those are the 6 prototypes, and as you saw, they ranged from identifying ways to change the distribution of the financial aid refund, either offering it more than 1 time a quarter, to rebranding the way students think about it to help them deal with the day-to-day management of the money they receive at the beginning of the semester, to ideas around improving access to credit and offering financial action courses. So the overall purpose, I would say, of these 6 prototypes is, our goal is really to improve student financial health so that they're better financial actors and more empowered to pursue their long-term goals and aspirations. And by doing that, we are hoping that we can drive up completion rates and reduce the amount of students that have to drop out of school due to financial emergencies or shocks that they weren't prepared for. And we're hoping that'll drive improved efficiency, both schools being better able to serve the student population and students just being better able to manage their financial livelihood and work towards their goals. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Julian and let you take on the next steps.
Great. Thank you all. Thank you all for your presentations today about the work that you all are doing with WFSNCC colleges, specifically kind of the work you're doing in terms of doing a deeper dive with the 6 colleges you're working with. And from Wendy's standpoint, kind of attempting to learn more about kind of student behavior as it relates to making financial decisions, and what that means in the broader context of WFSNCC and the other integrated services provided within that strategy. So we wanted to take a little bit of time now that you've heard a little bit about what the I guess we'll call the original 6 colleges, the types of work they embarked on in this area, knowing that you are kind of nearing the end of finalizing your own implementation plans, as you think about that 3rd pillar, as you've identified it so far, and some of the intended kind of ways of providing financial coaching or financial literacy, both low touch and high touch, what, if any, of the services that we discussed today you think you would be interested in identifying or doing a bit of a deeper dive on at your respective institutions? We can pause to see if anyone is interested in kind of mentioning what services, as they heard them today, they are interested in learning more about, and perhaps it may look on their campus, or you can follow up with me after. So is there anyone on the call right now that has any questions about the webinar as it's been presented generally, or if you have any thoughts about what some of these products and prototypes and services may look like at your institution, and your level of interest in pursuing this work a little bit more in depth? You can raise your hand, and we can unmute you, or you can just send a note to Elissa, and I can just read off whatever you write. And it's fine if there are no takers today on the call, but we did want to open it up to have a bit of a conversation, since we have some of the folks on the line now doing this work. Okay, that's fine. Feel free to chime in later as we kind of work toward concluding this webinar. But I wanted to bring to your attention that you'll be receiving more information from ATD about the specifics around a meeting that is going to be held on July 15th in Chicago. That is kind of, I would say, primarily intended to to learn from the 6 colleges that we discussed today, including College of the Washitas, North Ark, East Ark, Skyline, Kenyatta, and Walla Walla, to convene and discuss a variety of things, including reflecting on the operational experience of implementing this new product or service, as you heard today, examine the learning questions that the 6 selected colleges sought to test, produce lessons that can be shared with the rest of the WFSNCC consortia, and then help think about next steps. So I think this is going to be a very unique learning event for those colleges, but also have a lot of great takeaways for other colleges interested in pursuing similar work as it directly aligns with their WFSNCC strategy. So there's huge benefit to having the resources that ATD has through our partners, whom you heard from today, to better understand what this work can look like, how it aligns with the other two pillars of your WFSNCC strategy, and to identify and to provide some additional financial resources to do that work, particularly in LA, knowing that there are some great complements to the north in Kenyatta and Skyline that are doing some great work in this area. So please expect to get some additional information from Achieving the Dream, but attending this meeting in July to get more information about what the 6 colleges that you heard about today are doing, and begin exploring for yourself and your institutions, whether or not you might be interested in doing similar work as these 6 colleges, or perhaps some other prototype opportunities as you define them, or as you recognize they're being supportive of your WFSNCC strategy. ATD has recently received additional grant funding from MetLife Foundation to expand some of this great work across the consortia beyond these six schools that we've talked about. And we are going to be, we've invited additional colleges in the consortia to also join. So there'll be a combination of the 6 colleges that have been doing this work, as well as others in the consortia, to learn more about some of the next generation of colleges in the WFSNCC consortia pursuing this work. So are there any, I guess, questions or any additional feedback from our presenters about how they engaged with their colleges on implementing this work? And I think, as I mentioned before, a key focus during the meeting in July will be trying to identify how this work can be sustained beyond the life of the grant, and how it can help kind of advance the 3 core goals of the WFSNCC initiative, and how it's not a separate piece of it, but it is part of the WFSNCC strategy. How it can be used to help catalyze culture change. All of the services that you heard about today in the products, they are all very new for community colleges generally across the board. And I think it's indicative of the culture change that we are trying to promote through WFSNCC. When you talk about, breaking up, funding, Pell Grant receipt for not just so that's not just one lump sum. These are pretty significant institutional culture changes and policy changes that need to happen in order for it to actually work. The work that Skyline is doing with their secured credit cards, again, this is new area for a lot of community colleges, but again, it directly complements a lot of the other WFSNCC work. So I think.
Hi, this is Elissa. Just to chime in, we've received a question from the audience, and they've asked, when will the results from the college activities be released?
So I will defer to others on the call, but I believe it will be during the July meeting that we will begin to kind of learn more about what was learned, and as these products were implemented. ATD, in collaboration also with many of the folks on the phone, will be producing some written material as well that kind of will address the work that the 6 colleges embarked on and what that looks like at their institution. Others can feel free to chime in, but I think that process will begin in July with the convening to learn more about how the work was implemented.
Yeah, and this is Ashin with CFSI. I mean, at least the schools that we worked with, one of them was able to launch a product in June or end of May, and the other 2 are targeting more broad launches in the fall. So I think the July session would be a great kind of midpoint check-in to either understand how what the experience has been with the prototype in the launch to the student body, and also hear from those that are still working on developing it, just some of the barriers and learnings along the way.
Great, thank you, Ashwin. I will say that the great core of technical assistants and subject matter experts that we have on the call, we've been very happy to have them support the 6 colleges, and we look forward to engaging them further as we expand this work into other consortia colleges. So we hope that you have found the webinar today of interest, and you'll be seeing some more information from ATD directly with details about the meeting in July. If you have any questions, certainly contact myself or Elissa directly. This is an event that ATD hopes to kind of get as many participants there as possible to learn about this great work, and also prep them for being likely candidates to receive some additional funding to do a bit of a deeper dive, as we've learned from this work. So with that, if there aren't any other questions from the colleges, this webinar has been recorded, and like all of our other webinars, we will post it on ATD's YouTube channel. I encourage you to please share it with other members of your WFSNCC team that may not have been able to join today, and for those individuals to contact me directly if they've got follow-up questions about this work. Other than that, more details to come as we roll out this kind of next generation of the financial products and prototypes work for WFSNCC. I want to again thank all of our panelists today, Wendy De La Rosa from Irrational Labs, Lauren Leimbach from Community Financial Resources, and Ashwin Prakash from CFSI for joining us on the call today. So thank you all, and have a good afternoon.